Hi, my name's Katie and welcome to my channel. In this video I'm going to go through all of the foods that I feed to my African cichlids. I've got a mixed Lake Malawi set up here behind me and I've grown them out since they were juvenile sized fish and I've had the tank running for around about 10-11 months now. I'm going to just talk about how I choose the foods that I give to them and what to look for in a good quality food, as well as the food that I found has helped them to grow the fastest and the food that I feed them to help them to colour up the most. Hopefully you find this helpful. If you do, please give the video a like and I would love for you to subscribe to my channel if you would like to see more content like this. So the first point that I'll just quickly start with is you need to know what type of Lake Malawi cichlids that you have. If you've got mbuna, which are more of the rock-dwelling type of African cichlids, these ones normally prefer to have more algae or more fibre in their diet. It doesn't apply to all of them, but most of them will either be herbivores or omnivores, and their intestines just aren't set up to be able to digest large amounts of protein, so it's good to make sure that you have plenty of fibre in their diet. Whereas if you've got peacocks and haps, even though they still do need to have some fibre in their diet, they can tolerate higher levels of protein, things like brine shrimp or black worms. Once you work out what type of food that your fish need, then that's going to make it easier to then, when you go out shopping, look at the ingredients and work out what kind of varieties that are going to suit them best. The first food that I'll show you is the good quality food that I feed to my African cichlids. When you're looking for a good quality food, you want something that doesn't have a lot of fillers in it. So some examples of fillers can be having things like wheat in it, flour, it might even say that it's got leftover bits of cereal and stuff in it, or things like grains. You want to look at the first 2 to 3 ingredients and make sure that it's actually got something that's whole in it. So the ones I'll show you now are the New Life Spectrum ones. I give them the Thera A New Life Spectrum and then the Algae Max New Life Spectrum. And I have the two of them because I've got the mixed tank where I've got the peacocks, haps and mbuna. So I want to make sure that I'm giving them the mix of fibre and protein in their diet. For the New Life Spectrum ones, the first ingredients on it are whole Antarctic krill, giant squid and then whole wheat flour. So even though the third ingredient is more of a kind of filler type one, I am pretty happy with it that the first two are decent. And the pellet that I get them is a large size pellet, which is still pretty small, I find. Then in terms of the Algae Max, the first ingredients are algae, seaweed, and then it's got some kelp and spirulina and stuff in it as well. And this one comes in what they call a regular sized pellet, but I find that it's very, very tiny. And I would really prefer to get it in a larger pellet, but I haven't come across it in a larger one just yet. The next ones that I'll show you are ones that are a little bit lower quality and a bit cheaper, but they really like them and it gives them a different type of variety of food to feed from. So the first one I'll show you is this one. This one is the Cichlid XL, so Hikari cichlid pellets they're called. I like these ones because they float on top of the water and they're nice and big as well. So I like these for my haps that have bigger mouths, and when I look at them eating the tiny little algae pellets, it just doesn't seem like it's enough. So these ones are good for that. The ingredients in this, the first one's are fish meal, wheat flour and flaked corn, which isn't awesome. So you can probably kind of hear the difference now between the ones that are more expensive and have the higher quality versus the ones that are more just kind of fillers. You can still feed your fish on things like this and they'll normally do fine, but I just like to make sure that I've got the mix of things. I just find that you're less likely to then get issues with them digesting stuff if you've got the higher quality stuff in there as well. Then the last food I'll show you is just this one. It's the Plek pellets. I put these in for my 3 bristlenose catfish that I've got, but I find that my haps tend to like them as well, especially my Venestus cichlid really likes to have a go at these. These ones aren't great quality either, so they just say that their composition is fish derivatives and derivatives of vegetable origin and algae. Just one thing to be mindful of if you are getting lower quality foods is sometimes what happens is when the fish actually digests it, it starts to expand a little bit in their stomach, and then that can cause bloat as well. So if you have a lower quality pellet, then something you can do is float it or soak it in water for a little while and just kind of soften it up and let it expand a bit so that it's not happening actually in the fish's stomach. I haven't had that issue with any of the pellets that I'm feeding these guys, but I have had it in the past with different types of pellets and with discus. And discus are a little bit more sensitive, but it's just something to keep in mind if you don't have access to some of the more expensive pellets and you're using some cheaper ones. Just make sure that your fish aren't getting like really huge fat stomachs from it, because it's not so much that they're growing and that they're like really healthy with their fat stomachs. It can sometimes be more because they're actually starting to get a bit bloated from the food. So that's just something to keep in mind. Now, the food that I found helps them to grow the most, and this was particularly true with my fry. And yes, I just have one single baby fish in there that survived. So I found that he grew really well with the spirulina flakes, and I'm feeding this to my new fish that I've got at the moment in the quarantine tank as well, because I don't know, something about these bug bites just causes them to grow pretty fast. The ingredients in this are pretty decent. So it's got spirulina, insect meal, black soldier fly larvae, then it's got some wheat and potatoes and stuff in it too. I find that they get pretty addicted to this. It is kind of like a supercharged food, I think, because they love eating it. They literally go crazy for it. And then if I feed this too often, sometimes they don't want to have their other foods that are kind of the higher quality foods. So I just don't feed this too often, just every now and then. The food that I feed them that I think is the reason that makes them so colourful, because I've got males and females in here, but all of them are quite colourful. I give them this food, which is called Absolute Colour, and they really like this food as well. It isn't the healthiest food in the world. It's got a lot of cereal fillers and stuff in it, and it's not an everyday food that I feed them. The directions for this one are that you feed it every day for 2 weeks, and then you drop back and you just feed it every few days or as much as needed to help them maintain their colour. So these guys have this food about every second or third day, and I normally just mix it in with the better, higher quality foods as well, so that they're getting kind of all of their nutritional needs met. But this one's been really great. I have a feeling it's only available in Australia, which I know really sucks if you're from another country, but you might be able to have a look at your pet store and see if they've got a colour food that's in there as well. Some of them have hormones in them. This one says it doesn't, but my fish haven't had any babies since I've started feeding it, so I'm not 100% sure what's going on with that. It's definitely doing something that's making them more colourful, but this might be something that you want to keep in mind if you do go out and look for food, that even though people might say that the colour ones aren't as good quality and stuff, you can always feed that and then just mix it in with higher quality foods as well. That's everything. I hope this video has been helpful to give you a bit of a general idea of what you might like to feed to your African cichlids and how you can mix some of the higher quality foods with ones that are a little bit lower, and what to kind of look for as well in terms of ingredients and stuff. And also just looking for signs of bloat if you're feeding a food all of the time and you're noticing that they're getting fat stomachs and stuff from it. I hope that it was helpful too, talking a bit about the different types of Lake Malawi cichlids and having that kind of mixed diet where you've got the balance of having the fibre as well as the protein for the fish too. If you've got any food that you recommend as well, please leave it in the comments too for other people to see. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like, and if you would like to see more of this content, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!